Today we are reviewing Steph Bohrer's Steph Bohrer. Steph Bohrer? No, that can't be it. I do not know Steph B personally, but I do not know how to say her last name, so I'm going to be referring to her as Steph in this video as if we're besties. Hey Steph. I don't know why I said that, like she would be watching this. Anyway, today I'm going to be reviewing Steph's 5-star reads. If you don't know who she is for some reason, she is the queen of booktube and I love her. Quick note though, I have been preparing for this video for a while. I've been slowly making my way through her 5-star reads. And then she came out with a part 2. I was not prepared for her to drop another 5-star read video. So this is mostly going to be me reviewing and reacting to books from her 5-star reads part 1 video. But if you guys like this video and want me to do a part 2, let me know. Normal People by Sally Rooney. I literally finished this book last night. Steph describes this book as more of a coming-of-age story than a romance, and a story that takes place over many years. It starts out with the characters in high school, and then they go through college, and then post-grad. And I would definitely agree that romance is the driving plot in this book, but it's not really about the romance. Like, I feel like the heart of the story is the character's own coming of age. I have never read a Sally Rooney book before, and she has a very interesting writing style, and that took me a while to get used to. And just in general, she's kind of a depressing writing style. I have read so many romance books at this point that some of them super sad, tearjerker dramas, some of them really light, funny comedy, but generally they all end really happy, kind of fairy tale, idealistic romance vibes, and this is not that. It was a very different and refreshing read to me. It deals with a lot of themes of love, finding your way in life, mental health, insecurities, social anxiety and awkwardness, not fitting in, socioeconomic class status and how that affects your life and your social standings. And I really appreciate and enjoyed reading about all the topics that Sally Rooney tackles in this book, even though most of them were kind of depressing. I don't know that I agree with Steph in that this is a 5-star read for me. I would give it 4 stars. It is also a miniseries on Hulu, and I started the miniseries yesterday. I just watched the first episode, and so far it is really accurate to the book. If you like the book, I really recommend checking out the miniseries. And while I was watching the miniseries, I started doing a paint by numbers, which brings us to today's sponsor. Simple Painting is a company that sells paint by numbers kits, and I am no stranger to paint by numbers. I love paint by numbers. Paint by numbers are very similar to reading in a way of really focusing on a task and spending a lot of quiet time doing it, and then in the end feeling like very accomplished about completing. And what I really love about Simple Painting is they have such cool and complex designs that I would never be able to paint on my own. I chose to do this daisy painting because I think it really fits like the vibe of my apartment, so I want to hang it up when I'm done. And I'm not done with it yet, but when I'm finished with my daisy painting, I'll definitely post an update on my Instagram. And then I also have a 15% off discount code, which is JustAli, and the link and my discount code will also be in the description. The first series that she mentions is the Addicted / Calloway Sisters series, which is also a massive 5-star read to me. I'm actually not done. I'm 6 books in to the 10-book series. One of my favorite things about the series is that as much as it's a romance series, it is also a friendship series. It involves 6 characters, 3 of which are sisters to 3 girls. And then there's the 3 boys, and they're all such good friends. Like, I would die to be in their friend group. And then of course the 3 girls and the 3 boys end up together, so it's 3 total couples. And the couples are childhood friends to fake dating to lovers, academic rivals to lovers, and then age gap / forbidden romance. So you have 3 very different tropes, which I also like, so I feel like there's something for everyone. And this is by far the biggest romance series that I started, so it's really cool to get to read about these characters for so many books. If you ever read anything that I recommend, please let it be this series. This may be my favorite series / books I have ever read in the romance genre. And I also really need to finish the series. I think I said I have 4 books left and I need to hunker down and read them, but low-key I've been procrastinating because I just don't want to finish the series. Next up is the Off-Campus series. The first one in the series is The Deal. I have read all of the books in the series except for the epilogue book, which I actually just started. What's really cool and interesting about this series is that each book is a standalone, so you can read them all individually, but they all exist within the same world and all have crossover characters. And trope-wise in the series, we've got enemies to lovers with the first book, there's second chance romance, there's friends with benefits to Lovers, and then Strangers to Lovers. Oh my gosh, and it is a hockey romance series. So all the guys in the books are hockey players. They play on the same team at Briar U. So it's a sports romance. It takes place in college, so no adult romance. And something that I love about Elle Kennedy's writing style, this is gonna sound like a bad thing, but I mean it as a really good thing. She has a little bit more of a simple writing style, like very much Wattpad vibes, and I really like that. I was a big Wattpad girl, so this like just fulfills my middle school Wattpad fantasies, but in a more adult book context. Hello, Editing Alley. I just realized I didn't actually give my rating for this series, but it is a 5-star series for me. Then we've got Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover, which I also gave 5 stars. We're on a roll here of me agreeing with Steph's 5-star reads. But yeah, this is my favorite Colleen Hoover book that I have ever read so far. It has past and present, it has friends with benefits to lovers, it has a big dark secret that you find out at the end, and it will make you understand why it is called Ugly Love. I did not cry in this book, but definitely could see this being a tearjerker for a lot of people. A very, very sad part towards the end, and overall, one of the characters very much struggles with his past and a big emotional thing that happened to him, and him having never processed and reconciled with that tragedy in his life. So if you want to cry or almost cry and read about a really, really great love story, then would recommend this book. Then we have November 9 by Colleen Hoover, and this is the first part in this video where I'm gonna really disagree with Steph. Sorry, girl. I think I gave this book 3.5 stars. I liked it, but not my favorite. The concept of this book is that the characters only meet up one day a year, November 9th. So we go through their life only seeing and learning about them one day every single year, and I love that concept. I was so excited to read this book, and I maybe had too high of expectations just because I think it's a really cool story idea, but it made me feel a little bit disconnected from the characters, only getting to see them one day a year. I just felt like I missed so much on the other 364 days, and I felt like I couldn't super care about the characters because I didn't feel like I really knew them, not being able to see the full scope of their lives. It also had a huge plot twist at the end, which is a really cool plot twist, but for some reason it came across as kind of gimmicky to me. I don't really know how to explain it, but the twist just didn't really land for me. Then we've got The Hating Game by Sally Thorne, and I love this book. I gave it 4.5 stars. It is enemies to lovers, and it is a workplace romance, and the characters' chemistry is so good. They say hating someone is really similar to loving someone. I definitely butchered it, but there's a quote like that in the book. I also really love the movie. If you have not read this book, please read it now so you can go watch the movie. I actually have a whole vlog where I watched and reacted to the movie, and I'm now obsessed with reading books that have turned into movies or TV shows just so I can have that moment of seeing them come across live on the screen. Next up, we've got The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. I gave this book 4 stars. Looking back, I feel like I should have given it 4.5 because I really like this book. It is not just fake dating, but it is fake marriage, which that is taking a trope I already love to a whole new level. It is about Olive, whose sister is getting married, and her sister and her sister's husband get super sick, so they can't go on their honeymoon. And so Olive and the best man, whom Olive hates, have to pretend to be married so that they can go on and redeem the honeymoon in her sister's place. I think fake dating and enemies to lovers are 2 of my favorite tropes, so seeing those combined in such a fun setting was really fun to read about. Then we have 1,000 White Kisses by Tilly Cole, and I gave this book 4 stars. I liked it. It was a really cute romance. It's childhood friends to lovers. You literally get to see them as young children growing up together, which I think is really cool. It is YA, and I actually really love YA books, but for some reason I just felt at certain parts that this book felt a little young for me. And the characters' love for each other was so strong and so intense, which is part of the things I really like about this book, but it was almost too strong at too young of an age that it just didn't really land for me. I talked about this in my February reading wrap up. I think that's just a personal thing for me because, I don't know, in high school I was not falling in love with anyone, and I just can't imagine being like deeply in love at like 15, but that doesn't mean that people aren't deeply in love at that age. It just wasn't relatable for me because it's not something I've remotely experienced. But overall, a really cute book and a tear-jerker, which I did not see coming. Then The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I just posted a reading vlog to this book where I cried because this book is so sad and it stole my heart, and it is 100% a 5-star read for me. This book is Greek mythology, and I've said this 100 times. I didn't know I would be interested in Greek mythology. I was really skeptical I would like this book, and then I fell freaking in love with it, especially the Greek mythology aspect of it. And it is also romance. The main character Patroclus in this book is just so pure, and I love him so much. And then Achilles I also love. He's definitely a flawed character, and I really loved reading about such a fantastic character and then a bit more of a flawed character. I think that makes it so interesting and so human. It is just such an interesting story even without the romance aspect, but then of course the romance was like the main driving part, and I love that so much. Then we have Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston, and I am so in love with this book. If I could erase one book from my memory so that I could reread it again and get the feeling of reading it for the first time, it would be this book. 5-star read for me. It is enemies to lovers between a British prince and the son of the US president. And oh my gosh, such a cool world, being that they're royalty and then a president's son, and all of the history and the political aspect of what it means for them to be together. A lot of romance books have obstacles within the relationship, like reasons why obviously the couple doesn't get together till the end, but these characters literally had the weight of the world on their shoulders because of what it would mean for them to be together. I didn't start another book for like a week because it felt like I would be betraying these characters by reading any other book. And I believe Amazon is looking into making this into a movie, and if they do make it into a movie, I would literally cry. Then we've got Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan, and this book is also so good. I gave this book 4 stars. I cried like a baby, both from sad tears and then happy tears, which I don't think has ever happened to me before when reading a book. So a real emotional roller coaster. But it is about a girl who had something really traumatic happen to her, and so she kind of literally runs away from her problems and leaves to go live in this small town where she meets Archer, who also had a ton of trauma in his life, and he actually does not speak. So they both strike up this like really great wholesome friendship because he's kind of the small town loner and outcast, but they really bond just in general as friends, and then also through their trauma, and they have to go on their own journeys of healing, but they also help each other heal as their relationship blooms together. And it is just such a wholesome and sweet book. I cared about Archer so much, and he has a little special place in my heart. Then we've got The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I also think I cried in this book. This was a solid 4-star read for me. I loved that this book is a romance, but I feel like really at its heart, it's Evelyn's own story of navigating her life and finding herself and her way and her own happiness. And what's cool is that Evelyn is like a super famous actress, and it goes back and forth between past and present day. And during present day, Monique, who is a journalist, is interviewing Evelyn, and so we get to see the kind of interview style in the present, and then we actually go back into the past and get to experience firsthand Evelyn's life. It's about love and fame and being a woman in a heavily male industry and being a minority. And I think Taylor Jenkins Reid did such a great job of tackling so many great topics. Such a good story that will literally always stick with me. Then we've got Daisy Jones and the Six, also by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I gave this book 4 stars, and I would highly recommend listening to the audiobook. What's really cool about this book is it's Daisy Jones and then her 6 band members, so there's 7 main characters total, and in the audiobook they have different voice actors playing all of the characters, so it literally sounds like you're listening to a podcast. When I was listening to the audiobook, I kept forgetting that it wasn't real. And it takes place in the 70s, so very fun time period. It's about a band, it's about drugs, partying, love, finding your way. And you can literally be at the top of your life in the sense of money, fame, career status, but you can still be struggling so much with your own demons and your own mental health. And she did a really good job of tackling that concept. And that is all the books that I have read from Steph's 5-star reads. I am going to really rapid fire go through the other books from her 5-star read list that I have not read yet. There's All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover. I feel like I've heard so much about this book, and Steph said that it is about a couple and you get to see them fall in love, and then you go fast forward to the future when they're married and they're falling out of love. So that sounds really interesting to me. I've never heard anything similar to that dynamic where it takes place over that big of a time span in a couple's romantic journey. Then she talks about the duology Full Tilt and All In, which I have never ever heard of this duology before, but she said it is about a girl who is falling into really bad habits, and then she meets this really wholesome guy. So we've got bad girl, good boy trope, and I don't know that I've really read anything with that trope. So I do really want to read that trope because it sounds like such an interesting dynamic, because normally it's like the bad boy, good girl. Then The Wall of Winnipeg and Me by Mariana Zapata. I've heard so much about this book and Mariana Zapata, but have yet to read a Mariana Zapata book yet. And I know that she is the queen of slow burn, and I'm kind of scared because, you know, when you're reading a romance, it's that big anticipation for them to get together, and can my little heart take a slow burn? Probably, but I know it's gonna be torturous. Oh my gosh, I think it's Mariana Zapata? Mariana. Sorry about that. Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. I don't really know what this book is about, but I've heard that it is very angsty, lots of chemistry, and also a very taboo romance, so I'm intrigued by the taboo aspect. Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. I've heard so many people say that they love this book. I plan to read this book very soon. The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. I have owned this book for so long. It's the first book in the Dreamland Billionaire series, and I haven't started it solely for the fact that I'm in the middle of so many series right now, but I do want this to be the next series that I start. It is about a super rich guy who's basically like the CEO of this book's Disneyland, and then it's a romance between him and one of his workers at the theme park. And I think that is such a fun concept, like a Disneyland vibe setting. Oh my gosh, like, in love. And I also love super rich characters. I don't know why, I think that's just really interesting. Confess by Colleen Hoover. Also heard of this book a bunch. It is about a guy who paints people's confessions, and apparently there's lots of secrets that come out, and that also sounds like a very interesting concept to me. I don't know quite what it means to paint people's secrets and confessions, but I bet it's juicy. The Spanish Love Deception. Oh my gosh, I need to find out what all the hype is about Aaron Blackford and who this man is. Another Colleen Hoover book, we've got Reminders of Him, and it is about a girl who previously served 5 years in prison because of one mistake that she made, and that sounds also very juicy to me. I am so curious what she did to land in prison and how that's affecting her life now that she's out. Then we have Wait For It by Mariana Zapata, which is single parent trope and neighbor romance, and I don't know that I've read any romance where the main character has a child from the beginning, and so I'm very interested in how kind of the family aspect plays in with the romance. Then we have Most of All You by Mia Sheridan, which is another good boy, bad girl trope, which I said I really want to read, and Steph said that the characters have a lot of trauma, and I know Mia Sheridan did such a good job in Archer's Voice of writing about the characters' past trauma, and so I can only imagine that this book is just as good. And lastly, Redeemed by Lauren Asher, which is the last book in the Dirty Air series, and I actually own the first book in the Dirty Air series, Throttled. It is a Formula One racing series, so a sports romance. After I finish all the series I'm in, after I finish The Fine Print, then I want to start the Dirty Air series. Anyway, if you want to see me do a part 2 where I read all the books that I just mentioned, let me know. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I think I agreed with most of Steph's 5-star ratings. I'll put a little number up here of how many books on her 5-star list I also gave 5 stars to. Let me know in the comments at least one book that is on your 5-star list. I need to make my own 5-star reads video soon because I have not talked about that at all. All right, and with that, I'll see you guys next week. Bye!